The Honda Rebel lineup currently consists of 3 different models. The Rebel 300 with about 27 horsepower, the Rebel 500 with about 47 horsepower, and the Rebel 1100 with about 86 horsepower. Now, common sense would tell us that because the crank horsepower of each bike almost doubles with each step up, that in turn the power and speed of each bike would increase substantially as well. Unfortunately, common sense isn't so common anymore, so there's a lot of misinformation out there saying that the Rebel 500 isn't that much quicker or faster than the Rebel 300, and that the Rebel 1100 really doesn't have that much more power, isn't that much quicker than the Rebel 500, etc. So today we're putting that to the test by putting each of the 3 Honda Rebel models head to head in 4 different real-life tests. We're going to test the off-the-line acceleration with your typical 0 to 60 mile per hour test. We'll do a 40 to 70 mile per hour pull to simulate each of the bikes having to merge from an on-ramp up to the speed of traffic. We'll do a 60 to 80 mile per hour run to simulate each of the bikes having to pass a slow-moving car on the highway. And of course, we're going to have to do a top speed run on each of the bikes because of the infamous 100 mile per hour speed limiter that the Rebel 1100 has here in the US, but rest assured mine does not have that limiter anymore, and the results might surprise you. Each of the bikes is equipped with a Kaufman's Thunder exhaust, and the Rebel 1100 is also equipped with a high flow air filter as well as a DynoJet power commander that just has the stock base map. Now, every time I film a video like this, there's bound to be a comment section full of neckbeards living in their mom's basement covered in Cheetos dust and Mountain Dew stains, letting me know that if I really wanted to even the playing field, I would have taken out the high flow filter and the power commander from the Rebel 1100, letting me know that I'm a terrible rider so the results don't make any sense, and blah blah blah. And to that I say, shut up, I'm trying my best. If you feel that passionately about it, I implore you to make a video of your own so that the truth can really be out there in the best way possible. Otherwise, instead of leaving a comment, you can go ahead and write your thoughts down on a piece of paper, roll it up, and promptly shove it up your— Alright, thank you for the enthusiastic intro, Birch. Rodney Rebel here with the Honda Rebel Racing Network, welcoming you to our first annual Honda Rebel Racing Series. Today, our 3 competitors will go head-to-head in 4 separate events. In each event, each of the competitors will get 5 different chances to get their best score, and each run will be tracked with the Race Tracker GPS app. Since the Rebel 300 and 500 both do not have a tachometer to show the RPMs like the 1100 does, I use these charts from an old-time subscriber and Rebel aficionado, Les. Although I did find on my particular bikes, the rev limiters were in slightly different spots, so I had to shift accordingly. All of this was done to optimize the shifting point so that it wasn't just a guessing game. Of course, it goes without saying, do not try anything you're about to see at home. All of this was performed by a professional racer, not Birch, on a closed course in Mexico. Let's get started. Right off the bat, the power difference is noticeable. The Rebel 300 put down a best time of 7.6 seconds, the 500 had a best time of 5.2 seconds, and the 1100 came in at 3.7 seconds. I believe most publications say that the 1100 is around a 3.4 or 3.5, so if I got within 0.2 to 0.3 seconds of professionals, I'd call that a win. I mean, not me, the guy who was on the bike. A few things to note with this event. Both the 300 and the 500 had the disadvantage of having their gears spaced closer together, so both of them had to row through first, second, and third in order to hit 60. At first, it seemed like the 500 wouldn't have to do that because it seemed like it would be able to shift right after 60. Unfortunately, it turned out that it hit rev limiter right at 58 miles per hour, so at the last second, you still had to jump to third. Only to a GPS 58. Okay. As for the Rebel 1100, I was extremely impressed to see that on the first run, even with a misshift, shifting way early because I thought it was hitting, he thought it was hitting red line, when in reality it was just traction control cutting power. Even with that mishap, it laid down a time of 5.3 seconds. So even shifting way too early, it can still do a 0 to 60 time similar to the Rebel 500. Now, I'm sure you're thinking that you could put down a much better time with the 1100 if you turn traction control off, but I had 2 thoughts behind that. First of all, we wanted to keep it realistic, and given that you have to turn off traction control every single time you ride and then it resets when you turn the bike off, most people are not riding around with traction control off, so we wanted it to be similar to your day-to-day ride, which is why we kept it in the custom user mode with full power, lowest TC, and lowest engine braking for the entire event. And secondly, it was terrifying. The hardest part about getting a good time with the Rebel 1100 is easing into the throttle because no matter what you did, that front wheel wanted to come up in first and second. And as much as it might seem like it's sometimes. I mean, they don't have a death wish, so TC stayed on. Either way, 3.7 seconds out of a cruiser is super impressive, and we also did a 0 to 100 and quarter-mile run, but that will have to wait for the top speed at the end because it might give some secrets away. All right, now on to the 40 to 70 mile per hour merge. But first, a quick word from our race day sponsor, NBT Clothing, whose entire new lineup of casual riding gear is all CE rated to at least a AA standard. Every single piece of clothing that you see here has been third-party tested for abrasion, impact, and more, and gotten at least an AA rating, including these pants that are comfy enough that I'm crouched down in them. We have the all-new redesigned flannel here, looking awesome in that orange colorway, which you guys know that I love. This one's going to be lighter than ever and great for your warmer weather, and like I said, you get that AA rating even with how light that is. Then we have the newly redesigned armored hoodie. Again, it's fully lined with aramid, as are all of the jackets you see here. My favorite feature of this is that it has a new water-resistant pocket. As you can see, this seam is nice and sealed up, so if it starts raining, you can throw your phone, GoPro, anything you need in there and keep it nice and dry. And a brand new addition to the lineup that is sure to be a fan favorite, because I've already fallen in love with it, is the trucker jacket shown here. As you can see, this thing is almost like a welding jacket Carhartt material. This thing is going to be a lot thicker and heavier than the other two, and as you can see, it even has a flannel zipped in lining, and that can come out if you want to use it in a little bit lighter weather. And last but not least, you got this incredible looking bomber jacket. Check out how sick that diamond stitching is on the inside. This one is going to be wind resistant and water resistant. Both of these are going to keep you nice and warm. And not to be outdone by the jackets, you have both of the new redesigned pants here. The License to Ride pants are a cargo pant with a little bit of a skinnier fit, whereas the Stalwart pants are just your typical straight leg jeans. As you can see down here, it's probably about a 2-inch bigger opening at the bottom, if that gives you any idea for how much more of a straight fit they are. CE level 1 armor is included for both the pants and the jackets, and all of it is going to be this thin, flexible material that still has a CE level 1 rating without weighing you down. The craziest part is that this riding gear starts as low as only $248. Not only that, you can use code BURCH at checkout for 15% off, or use the link in the description to get 15% off at checkout as well. Now back to the races. And the power difference becomes much more noticeable in round 2, with each of the following competitors almost having the time before them. Halving, not having, you get it. The 300 laid down a time of 8.1 seconds, the 500 had a time of 4.3 seconds, and the Rebel 1100 had a blistering time of 2.4 seconds. A few things to note here. Each of the bikes started out in second gear, which was the correct gearing for them. However, once again, the 300 had to row through second, third, and finally fourth to hit 70. The Rebel 500 started out in second and only needed to make it to third to hit 70, so that was a great advantage. But one of the main things that I noticed that was interesting is that the 500 actually had a round where they accidentally started out in third gear, so they were able to just stay in third gear the entire time and still got a time of 4.8 seconds. So it was only a half-second difference staying in third and not having to shift. Interesting. The Rebel 1100 obviously wiped the floor with the competitors, not only getting the best time of 2.4 seconds, but also pretty consistently staying in the mid 2 seconds. That's pretty quick. The Rebel 1100 did have to shift into third gear, but by the time you hit third gear, you're pretty much already screaming at 70. Things are really starting to heat up, and they're only going to get more interesting from here, so let's head over and check out the 60 to 80 highway pass. What a stark difference this round brought us as we really start to see where the Rebel 300's power falls completely off on the highway and the Rebel 1100 just keeps pulling. The Rebel 300 only got a best time of 13.1 seconds, whereas the Rebel 500 got 4.3 seconds and the Rebel 1100 got 2 seconds flat. That's crazy. The biggest takeaway for me from this event was the Rebel 300. This event made it very clear how lacking the Rebel 300 is on highway power. At 60 miles per hour, the most optimal gear for the 300 to start out in was 4th gear, and it only had to make it up to 5th to hit 80. However, it still took a long time because of the lack of power up top. Now, 13.1 seconds might seem very slow, but what if I told you that it was really dependent on whether there were hills or not? Only 2 of its runs were around 13 seconds. There were 2 other runs where there was a little bit of hills involved because it took so long for it to get up to speed, and those runs took over 21 seconds. But not just that, it had a run where it took over 35 seconds to get from 60 to 80 because of an uphill section and wind hitting the rider in the chest. 35 seconds is crazy. It could have been a fluke, but even 21 seconds. In what world are you passing a car on the highway on a Rebel 300 safely? You're not. The Rebel 500's 4.3 seconds was impressive, but what was even more impressive is that there was a run where it got from 60 to 80 in 6th gear, so not starting out in an optimal gear, acting as if you're just not downshifting and having to pass a car, and it still managed it in 5.9 seconds. Not only that, but the rider tried one intentionally uphill in 6th gear, and it still did it in 8.6 seconds. Almost half the time of the Rebel 300 trying its hardest, the Rebel 500 did it in top gear. And then the Rebel 1100 just made a mockery of everyone because it can make it from 60 to 80 while staying in 3rd gear, never shifting, consistently mid 2 seconds and a best time of 2 seconds flat. That's crazy. As you can see so far, the Rebel 1100 is absolutely dominating the field with times nearly half or less of what the Rebel 500 is doing and only a fraction of what the Rebel 300 is able to pull off. But that brings us to our final event, the top speed run. As I mentioned, here in the US, the Rebel 1100 is infamously known for only having a 100 mile per hour top speed limit. Why Honda imposed that, I have no idea. It could have something to do with the fact that the bike is known to be a bit unstable at higher speeds, but the bike that we're testing, between the Metzler Cruise Tech tires that they added, as well as the fork brace, let's just say she is stable as can be. And that's a good thing because the top speed limiter has been removed with the Heeltech top speed limiter delete. So while some people say that the Rebel 500 allegedly in stock form has a higher top speed than the Rebel 1100, let's just say that is not the case now. But the question is, just how high are the top speeds? Let's take a look. Once again, staggering results. With each step up in engine size, we added about 20 miles per hour to the top speed of the bike. The Rebel 300 tried its damnedest, but only got up to 88 miles per hour. It didn't matter if it was in 5th gear or 6th gear, it was stopping in its tracks at 88. We could maybe blip to 90 if we had a super long downhill and a tailwind, because I believe that I did that on my old Rebel 300, but in this instance, we tried 5 separate times and could only hit 88. And not only that, I hope you have time to wait because it's taken forever to get there. And then the Rebel 500 came in with an impressive 108 mile per hour top speed. It got to its top speed much quicker than the Rebel 300 got to its top speed, but it's safe to say that the Rebel 1100 made an absolute mockery of them both, hitting an impressive 126 miles per hour in no time flat. And not only that, but I personally believe that the Rebel 1100 with a little bit more room to go and a ballsier rider could probably tip the scales around 130. Now, to really put that power into perspective, the Rebel 500 just getting from 88 miles per hour to 108 miles per hour, so a 20 mile per hour difference to its top speed, took 15.9 seconds. But the Rebel 1100 got from 76 to to 126. 50 miles per hour difference up to the top speed, and it only took 12.8 seconds. If that doesn't impress you, this should. I mentioned earlier that we did a 0 to 100 run and a quarter-mile run on the Rebel 1100, and here are those now. The rider was able to go 0 to 100 miles per hour in only 10 seconds. And even with a bad start and only a 4.6 second 0 to 60, they did a 12-second flat quarter mile. On a $10,000 bike that really doesn't have that many aftermarket upgrades for performance. Does it get any better than that? I think not. The results are clear to me. There's obviously a substantial change in power, quickness, and speed between the three bikes, which you would expect from bikes that almost double in crank horsepower with each step up. So what do you think? Were you impressed? Disappointed? Is it exactly what you thought? Leave a comment below and let me know, and we'll see you next time at the Honda Rebel Racing Network. Rodney Rebel, signing out. Thank God, dude, this hat is cutting off the blood flow to my forehead.
Oh, so basic. Hope you play this. Damn, I prayed it. Nice song, and I became this. Old souls fake it. Paid those placements. Fuck shit. And I'm still waiting on the brighter days. Been a minute, been rough many times more. And I'm kicking rocks to a sky of gray. Praying hard, talk to me before I'm done for.